Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. The one and only Vinnie Tortorich is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out his first appearance on our podcast on episode 55, and his second appearance in episode 243 of Boundless Body Radio. Vinnie Tortorich is an author, radio and podcast host, fitness trainer, former model, filmmaker, and international motivational speaker. After he moved from New Orleans to Los Angeles, he quickly became a top celebrity trainer. As an author, he wrote a best-selling children's book titled Monty, and in July of 2013, Vinnie released his second best-selling book called Fitness Confidential. The book was written with Dean Lorey and covers Vinnie's no sugars, no grains, or NSNG, approach to healthy eating. His podcast, Fitness Confidential, is one of the longest-running and highest-rated fitness podcasts on Apple. He has made 4 fantastic films: Fat, a documentary; Fat, a documentary 2; Beyond Impossible, all about fake meat companies; and Dirty Keto, which is the most recent film and one that we will be discussing today. As always, I will personally reimburse anybody who has to pay to watch any of these films. This is how highly we esteem Vinnie and his work. You can find Vinnie at his website at www.vinnietortorich.com. Vinnie Tortorich, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio.
Wow, you know what? I'm going to save that introduction, and next time my wife gets mad at me, it's like, honey, listen to this.
Hold on. Let me read this.
I'm pretty cool. Yeah. This guy, Casey, said some wonderful things, and you need to hear these things.
I will forward this over to you, and hopefully it gets you out of a fight here pretty soon. Happy to help.
Yeah, we don't have many arguments at all. I know that sounds impossible when you're in a long-term relationship, but we've been together 17 or 18 years, and we hardly ever have a disagreement, which I think is great.
That's amazing. I love when the two of you are both hosting your podcast, and I love your interactions together. And so, I can't imagine you guys fighting too much.
Yeah, no, we get along. Which is good when you're in a relationship.
That's great. I love that. First question. I've been wanting to ask you this for a very long time. Someone in our community, I'm not going to say the name, I'm just going to leave it out there. If you know, you can say it if you want. Someone in the community has been wanting to make a film for a very long time and has used crowdfunding to support a film for like 7 years at this point, and nobody has seen the film. The film has not come out. There's been many iterations, apparently. It's always just around the corner. It never comes out. In that same time, Vinnie, you have made 4 videos, and they're all great. 4 movies that you have made. They've been published. They're out. They're incredibly done. I just want to know, like, what does it mean to you to be able to actually produce these movies and get them out to people so they can help?
Can I guess at who the person is that's been crowdfunding for years?
You can take a stab, yeah.
If I guess it right, will you say it's the person?
I'll say it's the person.
Okay, I'm going to go with Brian Sanders.
You nailed it. Ding, ding, ding.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you how. It's like, wait, did you guys set this up? No, here's the deal. Brian came to me first to be in that film. Oh, wow. By the way, I have nothing bad to say about Brian Sanders. Yeah, I keep waiting for that film to come out, right? I thought it would be out years ago. He wanted me in it at first because I brought a certain level of weight to it because I was one of the top guys in the low carb community and all this kind of stuff. And we just couldn't see eye to eye as to how to do it. And so, you know, we had a couple of meetings. It wasn't like we were in production or doing anything. We weren't even at the money stage yet. So I said, look, man, I think you should go do this. I'm not going to do it. And I'm out. I didn't say I was going to go do my own film, right? My first documentary came about in a totally different conversation when a kid, Peter Pardini, did the first one with me. And as a matter of fact, when Peter came along, I said, you know, I tried this with this guy, Brian. It just didn't, I didn't want to do shenanigans in the film. Brian wanted to do some shenanigans that was kind of like the vegan-esque stuff. And I was like, you know how vegans just do these vegan propaganda documentaries and they lie about everything?
Yeah.
Well, Brian didn't want to lie, but he wanted to do this schlocky stuff in order to, and I get it. The kind of stuff that draws people in, like, hey, let's get a couple of twins and study them separately. And it's like, that's not a study. You're doing it for 5 minutes for a documentary. It's not going to work. Right. So I said as much to Peter, and he goes, no, you could just go on and tell the truth. This is your story. I will just help you make the film. And as you know, Fata documentary came out and just blew the doors off of all documentaries that year, which is, I'm not bragging for me. I'm shocked that we were able to pull that off. But Brian, every time, I kept an eye on him, and it was like, yeah, man, I see you doing some crowdfunding. Great. You're going to get your thing done, right? You made a lot of money. You're going to get it done. And then another year would pass, and, he would hint that it would come out. I'm going to say something here I don't think I've said anywhere else. When I was promoting either my second documentary, Fat 2, I think it was Fat 2, I was promoting, Brian has a podcast. So I wanted to go on every podcast I could. And I called him and said, hey, buddy, would you mind having me on? He goes, absolutely. And so we went on and I did the podcast. And at the end, he goes, hey, all right, we're going to go here in a second, but I got one more question. I was like, yeah, what you got? He goes, why did you block me from going on to the Adam Carolla show? And he caught me in left field. I was like, what did I do? He goes, you block. I'm paraphrasing. He goes, I was going to go on the Adam Carolla show and you put the kibosh on that. And I was like, I didn't know what to say. And I said, the only thing I could, I was like, wait, you're going on Adam Carolla? That's great. And he goes, yeah, but I can't go on because you told him not to have me.
Wow.
I was hearing this brand new for the first time. You understand? And I said, the only thing I could say, I said, you do realize I'm a guest on the Adam Carolla show. I have nothing to do with that show. I've been on like 100 times on the Adam Carolla show. Not like 100 times. I think I've been on for actually 98 times, according to whoever counts that. And I said, you realize I don't belong to that show. I'm a guest. They don't call me and ask me about other guests and whether they should have them or not. I mean, the lunacy of that. To bring it full circle, I was listening to the Adam Carolla show about, I want to say 6 or 8 months ago, and they had the guest Brian Sanders. So, oh my God, he finally got on. This is great. That must mean his movie is finished, right? And Adam was interviewing him as if to go, oh my God, you finally got this movie out. And he's talking about it as if it's a finished product. And at the end of the interview, Adam said, where can people go to find the movie? And he goes, oh, it's not done yet. I'm still crowdfunding. So if you people want to go give me money. So the answer is, I like the guy. He's been asking for money for a long time. I don't know what he's doing with the money. I don't know why it's not finished. But boy, when it comes out, it better be epic because it's taken a long time and a lot of money.
Well, I'm like you. Like, I can't wait. Like, I want to watch it. And you mentioned something.
Me too.
Anything that moves this message forward is fantastic. And you mentioned the kind of gimmicky thing. And I can't remember if he was a part of this or not, but there was a documentary that was made fairly quickly after the Game Changers came out. And there were basically like 2 versions. One was like the debunking of the Game Changers. And the second version also included some of that kind of gimmicky stuff that was basically like making fun of vegans. And I didn't love it. I didn't think it was very tasteful to do that. Like I wanted somebody to go through and debunk the facts, but to do kind of the same thing that they do and throw it back on them and make fun of them, I thought was pretty distasteful, frankly. I didn't really like that. I don't think that moves the message forward. And at the end of the day, this information has to get out. Like when we started our podcast, it wasn't very imperfect. It wasn't that great, but you push record and you release something, and it's like at least you did something, and you're moving in a direction. And so that's where I get kind of frustrated with all of that.
I do too. I'm just trying to put the truth out there, and I'm hoping that when Brian gets his movie out there, that he does the same thing. By the way, I have no bad words to say about Brian. I like his message. I like what he's talking about. But it's like, come on, dude, let's get it out there.
Yeah.
You know what's you know maybe he's caught up in analysis paralysis and that kind of thing that happens a lot of time, and if he is, I hope he figures it out. Um, but I didn't see that vegan film or that vegan anti-vegan film. People think I hate vegans, which nothing can be further from the truth. Some of my best friends happen to be vegan. One of them is a vegan, you know, big time vegan on the internet, Rich Roll. We used to ride bikes together. I taught him how to go long on a bike. Guy was a great athlete. He was a swimmer, a runner, just a great athlete. And he wanted to get into long distance cycling. Come on, let me throw you in my back pocket, take you along, teach you a few tricks. Rich is a great guy. The problem I have with the vegan community are the doctors who just lie, right? It's like these are medical doctors and they just go onto the internet and they just lie. They make up, like Michael Greger is one of my favorites. He'll say if you eat one egg a week, it could cause type 2 diabetes. What? Dr. McDougall, who just openly will stare into a camera and say, the way to get rid of type 2 diabetes is to eat sugar and more white rice.
Oh, my goodness.
These are facts. And by the way, it's like, oh, come on, Vin, you're paraphrasing. Folks, you can go on and find these doctors saying these things into a camera, right? And that's who I have a problem with. Hell, one of the people that helped me more than anyone when I first moved to Southern California was an actress named Alexandra Paul. Staunch vegan, has gone to jail for protesting things and all this kind of stuff on the PETA and vegan side and the whole thing. I love that woman. Love her, right? One of the biggest vegan. I have no problems with any of these people. But when the doctors start lying, we have a problem.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. You mentioned community, and I just was so excited to kind of tell you this. Last year, I was at KetoCon, which I don't think your new film is going to be premiering at Hack Your Health this year, rebranded from KetoCon. I'm guessing it's not going to appear at that show. But anyway, I had become really good friends through another conference with our mutual friend, Robin Dobbins, and I got invited. Yeah. I got invited one night to go with a group of NSNG people, no sugar, no grain, a community that you created, to go to a barbecue in Austin. And they offered me a ride. I accepted for sure. I was really excited to spend time with these people. We had the most lovely evening in the backyard of this barbecue joint with a group of 20 or 30 people that were all NSNG, had found you and your work. They were all various ages, various health statuses. Some people were very fit. Other people were still on their journey of becoming more fit. They were some of the kindest and most friendly people I've ever met. None of them were dogmatic. They just did the best they could to follow exactly what you've been promoting for over a decade now. No sugar, no grain. I had a lovely time. And like I said, this community is so by and large friendly and happy and accepting and non-dogmatic. I really, really appreciate that you created this community and helped kind of set that up. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, from the beginning, because I took it from working with my clients, for decades before that in Hollywood, and said, okay, I'm sending this out to the general public, but I want to make sure that people don't look at this as a diet. Because diet, once you put the D word in there, then, now once you give someone a diet, the first thing they do is, okay, how can I work my way around this diet? What can I do to cheat? Right. And that's kind of what this fourth movie is about. It's like guys like me created this low carb movement online. And then the first thing that happens is industry comes in and goes, hey, you can start cheating. And that's why I call NSNG a lifestyle. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. Your liver works as a meritocracy. Whatever you put into your body, your liver will, say, hey, here it is. Right. I'll give you an example of that. There's this woman who she lost, I want to say she was right at 90 pounds weight loss. And she works as a school teacher or something. She doesn't have all the money in the world, so she couldn't set up consults with me. I do these consults where people can call and set them up. She couldn't really afford that, but I saw the woman was coming along, and I quietly help those people, and I'll get their email address or their phone number, and I'll text them and write to them and this kind of thing. Well, at some point, this woman started backsliding. She was 90 pounds down. She still had about 125 pounds to go. Right. So you go, oh my God, 90 pounds. Yeah, but she wasn't halfway yet. And she started gaining some weight back and she started sliding backwards. She had like an 11-pound backslide. And I said, what's going on? She goes, oh, work is stressful, the kids, the dog, blah, 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 blah. And I started eating sugar again. I'm on the sugar train and I can't get off. It's an addiction, Casey. And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, when was the last time you had sugar? She goes, I just ate donuts just now. They bring them into work. They're right there. I'm stressed out. I just hammered a bunch of donuts. And I said, okay, what time is it right now? And she goes, it's 6 p.m. Where I don't know where she is I know where she is, but she's not on my time. I said, okay, can you go 24 hours? Can you give me 24 hours of being clean? And she goes, I think I can do that. I said, I want you to give me 24. Please give me 24 hours. And she said, absolutely. I said, I want you to text me 24 hours. She did. She goes, I've been clean for 24 hours. And I said, okay, let's do another 24. Long story short, we've been doing that every single day in, day out, weekends, everything for about 3 months. And the woman hasn't had sugar in 3 months and not only gained back the 11 pounds that she lost back the 11 pounds she gained, but she's now moving in a direction of losing that last 125 pounds. She's lost a lot of weight, but it's one day at a time. It's one day at a time. And people go, you like what you do? It's like, oh yeah, when I could get people like this and just be there and help them. Yeah, I'm good. That's a life well lived.
That's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, exactly what you're describing is addictive behavior. I follow a fairly strict carnivore diet. That's just what works well for me. I don't do well with most carbohydrates. I just don't. And sometimes, very rarely, but every few months, I might go off a little bit. And a reason recently that I went off, it was a few weeks ago, and I was craving peanut butter burgers, which I don't know if you've had one. It sounds kind of gross, but it's like a normal.
Because I love peanut butter, so do tell.
Most people give me a really gross look, and then trust me, I thought it looked disgusting for a long time, but I used to have them, and it's like it's got the sweetness of the peanut butter and a little bit of crunch, and this time I decided to have it with a bun, and I just I bought one package of the buns, I bought one thing of peanut butter, and this is peanuts, like it's just peanuts and salt, like nothing else in it, no sugar, whatever. I had that jar, and it was gone, bottom of the jar, in 3 days. That's how quickly it took me to get through that thing. I can't have it. I'm an addict. I believe that. And like if I have a little, I have a little more and a little more and a little more, and then I have to finish whatever I have. And it's like, why am I doing this to myself? My anxiety comes back. I don't sleep as well. It takes a little while to get back to like feeling good and optimal again. And it's such an addiction, man. It's exactly the way you said it.
It is. And I'm no better than anyone else. I have a sugar addiction. That's why people go, oh, you're so stoic. You could just stay away from sugar. It's like, no. I'm like an alcoholic. And I know this because there are two people in this world that I love who are both, I call them former alcoholics, but former alcoholics still call themselves alcoholics. One's been sober for 38 years and the other one for, I want to say 16, 17 years. He's been going for a while. And I follow, since they're very close to me, I follow what they do in AA for my own addiction to sugar. That's why I stay away from it. But unlike them, they can never have a drink. Every now and again, I'll sneak a little sugar, but it's very well controlled, right? And it's literally like twice to three times a year. It's usually Christmas time at the in-laws or something like that. But I'm very controlled about when I do it, right? And I don't do, well, once a month or once a week, I'm going to have a cheat. I cannot do that. I cannot cheat once a week. As a matter of fact, we haven't talked about it on this show, but for your audience, I'm going through chemotherapy again because of chronic leukemia. And I've been so spot on. I mean, I just told my wife, because I can't leave the house. I can't be in public because my immune system is shot. I said, honey, I need some more coconut oil. And she was like, I just bought you a jar like the other day. I went, oh, yeah, I'm done. I need another jar. I went through a jar of coconut. I'm so hell bent on keeping my ketone levels high right now while I'm fighting off infection. And if you talk to my friend Mary Newport or have you ever had Mary on the show?
Of course,
by the way,
she's a sweetheart. I was so happy to see her in your latest movie.
By the way, she's coming out on my podcast, my Friday show again very soon.
Oh, good.
Mary will tell you that there's antimicrobial properties to coconut oil and all this kind of stuff. I've been eating that through my going through my cancer thing again, like there's no tomorrow, right? Just keeping my ketones way higher than I normally would, and whenever I talk to my doctor and the nurse, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Say, oh yeah, today I did 90 minutes of aerobics, and they're like scratching their heads, going, "You did what?" All the way through chemo. Now there were a couple of days where I was so down, and as I like to say, my dick was in the dirt, man. But for the most part, I've been on my spinner and my Concept 2 rowing machine. Just and by the way, right after this podcast, that's what I'm getting ready to do.
Amazing.
Is go do 90 minutes. I couldn't do this the last time I was on chemo 17 years ago because even though I was doing this with my clients, I was trying to eat every bit of carbohydrate that I could because I just wanted to keep feeding myself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot better on just being in downright total ketosis this time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. You look great. If you're listening and not watching, Vinnie looks completely healthy. Contrast that to my mom, man. Late 30s, she was diagnosed with cancer. She was gone by 46. It was seven and a half years of treatments, and we switched our diet to a healthier diet. And so the white bread was gone. In was the wheat bread. The skim milk was there. Anything that was low fat was totally fine. So we always had the Twizzlers. I've said this before on the show. We would bring her during her chemo sessions. I remember bringing her the giant things from Starbucks that were basically the apple cider mix with like caramel, just giant warm sugar bombs for her chemo treatments. And she was not on her spin bike or her rower or doing any of that stuff. It was a lot of fatigue. It was a lot of days of coming home from school and us making our own lunches and snacks and things like that, all low fat, high carb. Like it was the absolute worst thing that we could have done. It's all we knew at the time.
And by the way, I want to be very clear. Not everyone has the same type of chemotherapy. My brother just went through colorectal cancer. He couldn't get out of bed most days. And for people like that, I tell them, whatever you feel like eating, if it's ice cream, because I talk to a lot of cancer people, they call me for support because I've been through it. I always explain to them, look, there's going to be days, if pasta sounds good to you, eat it. Because sometimes you just, you can't, man, there was a guy that had a brain tumor and he was like, he was wasting away and he was, I can't do it. I said, look, does bread sound good to you right now? And he goes, oh, I would have sourdough right now. It's like, tell your wife to go out and buy you sourdough right now. Just, you know what it's like, man. You've lived with cancer and a lot of people have. I'm not bragging that I'm able to get on my spinner and my rowing machine. I'm lucky.
Yeah.
And some people aren't as lucky. Like I said, I just handheld my brother through it. Now he's hand holding me. It's weird how it works.
Yeah.
Right. Some people, the type of chemo I'm on, it's supposed to kick my dick in the dirt. Some days it did. But boy, whenever I woke up and I felt the energy, I got on and I did it.
Nice.
And I'm still doing it.
Yeah, I know luck is a big part of it, but you also make your own luck. And knowing this information that we know about how healthy ketones are for cancer and how cancer feeds off of glucose in particular, I think you're making really good luck. And just knowing your story and knowing that they said the leukemia was going to come back in 3, 4, 5 years, and it was 17 of you just living healthy and sharing your message has been awesome. So yeah, I do believe luck is part of it, but I also believe that you've done a wonderful job making your own luck. And we should probably talk about your latest movie, Dirty Keto. Wonderfully done. I was so grateful to be able to watch it. I would expect nothing less coming from you. I was so happy to see all of our amazing mutual friends like Dr. Chafee and Dr. Ben Bickman and Mary Newport, who you mentioned, and all these wonderful people that are also out there sharing the message. Tell me why this documentary needed to be made.
I don't think it needed to be made. I came up with a great title. I went, well, I got to do a movie. Yeah. No, I just got the aforementioned KetoCon, and by the way, Robin is a great friend, the woman who runs that.
She's amazing.
Yeah, what she's doing there, and she's helping a lot of people. I don't think they took kindly to me telling the truth when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
It's not, and so I get why they wouldn't have me back, and I'm kind of played out anyway. Why keep having the same guy back? But I would go again, but my message is not going to change. And when you have people out, with the kiosk set up selling all the keto junk, and I feel bad that I'm on stage going, hey, don't go eat all that crap. It's not keto, right? And I remember the first couple of years, they did have good products. There was a guy that was selling bone broth, and there was another guy selling pure, chocolate, pure fat from cocoa, right? And all this different kind of stuff. So there were some good companies out there doing some good things, right? But then I started seeing this guy selling brownies and that guy selling candy of all sorts, and it's like, no, it's monk fruit, Vinny, it's okay. And it's no, it's got agave in it, and I'm like, this is not keto. And who are you lying to, right? And they started using all the other fake sugars that will give you the shits and all this kind of thing. I'm sorry, I'm not there to help you sell your products. I'm there to help the people who are there. I say at the beginning of every podcast, your good intentions have been stolen. I'm going to help you get them back. And here we are at a keto convention where they're stealing your good intentions again. I'm sorry, I can't be part of it. I'm not going to be part of it. That's why I don't get invited. Now, you mentioned before the show, yes, I used to go around internationally, and I will start doing that again. I can't right now because I'm sick. But yeah, I'm invited to Asia, Asian countries, and I've been invited to Europe, and I've been invited to all over the United States to talk. But the conventions aren't really welcoming. They won't welcome a guy like me anymore because I'm going to say, hey, everybody out there is selling bullshit. Right? They don't want to hear that. I'm not going to start mincing words. I'm too old and too ugly. Right? So that's that. Yeah. So, that was the beginning of me with Dirty Keto. It's gone far beyond small companies at KetoCon, selling crap. It's now, industry got hold to it. And I remember the first time I started hearing people say, well, Vin, what about net carbs? I was like, net carbs? Well, what do we have here? So I Googled net carbs, and just miraculously, industry had figured out, oh, we're going to just tell people that you can subtract the fiber from carbs. They don't count. When I read that, I went, okay, the last time I heard something this crazy was when I heard someone call a black man the black face of white supremacy. It's like, when you hear certain things that don't make sense, right? It's like, wait, the new blackface of white supremacy? Huh? And then you hear net carbs. When things start not making sense, it makes me take a deeper dive It's like, okay, what are they trying to make me believe here? I knew it was bullshit right away, right? But I'm sitting there going, huh, why are they saying this? And then I saw another one not long after that. You can subtract sugar alcohols from sugar from total sugar.
Mm.
It's like, okay, who came up with this happy horse crap? Right? So it's like it was all just made out of just thin air, just thin air. None of it is true. It's kind of like when with the aforementioned, Dr. McDougall saying, "Oh, you can eat all the white rice you want, and you can lower your type 2 diabetes." We know that's a lie. This is a lie that's just as big, if not bigger, right? And this is now on my side of the aisle, the stuff I'm telling people to do.
That's right.
So that's when I looked at it and went, okay, I have to go after my own industry, something that I help create. People, I don't think people, they go, oh, come on, Vinny, did you create this? No, I didn't. When it comes to it, this was, long before me, low carb diets were a thing. We go back to early 1900s. We can go back to, the doctors that were curing cancer and all these different metabolic, diseases with low carb, right? Otto Warburg comes to mind, right? And we could go on and on and on. We go back to Dr. Atkins in the 1970s, who discovered it by accident from some of his patients, right? So no, I didn't create an industry, but people like myself, Gary Taubes was early, with the books Why We Get Fat, and before that, Good Calorie, Bad Calorie. Yeah, there was a bunch of guys that started talking about it. And when we first came to the internet, we were largely considered, charlatans and kooks and where's your tinfoil hat and all this kind of stuff. And we had to, go through those battles before we got popular. And then everyone else jumped on board, which is great. That's why I will never say anything bad about Brian Sanders. I think what he's doing, the energy he has, he's doing a great job. Right. I'm happy for all of these people, all of them. And I want everyone to do well. But when the industry looks at what we're doing and go, okay, let's start creating shit around this, that's when I got to, put my hand up and go, no, 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 no. This is not what we were talking about 12 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys took the word, ketogenic, brought it down to keto. Now let's bastardize keto.
No, I mean, it happened just this week as I was explaining to one of my clients that I was going to a trade show called Hack Your Health. And she said, well, isn't that the same as KetoCon? I'm like, well, it was KetoCon. It's a rebrand now. Robin decided to change it to Hack Your Health. It's slightly different because there's kind of this like weird notion about keto. And she's like, I don't understand why there's like this connotation. Like I thought that the idea was just to be in ketosis most of the time. Like you could do that with a lot of different things. I'm trying to explain it to my kids and they don't understand keto. They think it's really weird. And I try to tell them like, look, you just eat real food that puts you in ketosis. I'm like, yes, that's perfect. That's what we want. We want you to be in ketosis for certain health conditions, for weight loss, for general, good energy. And if you spend most of your time in ketosis, you're probably going to be great. You're going to do just fine. It's just this word keto has, like you said, been bastardized by an industry trying to make a buck by selling you these products to say they're keto.
Yeah. And that's how the movie. You've seen the movie, right, Casey?
Oh yeah, it was great.
What did you think? And by the way, don't blow smoke up my ass. Did we hit it, or did I miss the point? I mean, I was trying to, And by the way, it's the first movie that I've done in an hour. Right? The other ones are like 85, 90 minutes long, and I said, I want this to be more, if you will, bite size. So I had to cram a lot of stuff into 60 minutes. What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I am not somebody who does very well with brevity. If we ever do podcast episodes where we take like clips of a certain topic and put them all together, like if I want to do like an episode where we just talk about protein that takes like 15 different clips from 15 episodes, that episode is going to be like 4 hours long. So I'm not very good at the brevity thing. And I understand it's really important to get it down. I thought you covered all the points really well. I thought it ran through a sequence of events that was, it made a lot of sense. It's tough out there when people are trying to do the right thing and they want to do this keto diet because somebody said it was good, so they start making keto bombs. And you know what you mentioned, I thought this was fascinating actually. What you mentioned about the keto products, some of them don't have to report how much sugar is in certain things, and it can add up from so many different sources that you could actually have like something say no sugar or very low sugar when it could have way more sugar than I was aware of. That part was fascinating to me.
Yeah, when it comes to products, and that's why I tell people just eat real food, because then you get to miss all of this. If you have a plus or minus of, I don't want to misspeak, but 2 or 3% or something like that, the government says you can count that as zero, right? So if you notice, they'll say, like the third ingredient is something, it might say, lemon juice concentrate. And then you'll see another ingredient or two, and then you'll see, grape juice concentrate or some other name. And at one point in the film, I run like 56 different names that they will use to hide sugar under. And if you look at some of these products, it'll say zero sugar or zero added sugar. Those are the two industry words, either zero sugar or zero added. And then when you look at the ingredients, you'll see sugar listed 4 or 5 different ways if you know what to look for. And you go, wait, they said no sugar. Yes, because they put 2% or less of all these sugars. And if you add them up, you can easily have 10 or 15 grams of sugar in the product that says zero sugar, right? And our FDA allows that to go on all day long, right? These guys are playing within the confines. It's almost like we have the inmates running the asylum, because the food industry gives so much money to politicians, to senators. They have a lot to say. They help control the FDA. So you have the prisoners running the asylum, and it's just not going to ever work. That's why you have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What would you say to people that use these products? Maybe not chronically, like maybe it's not the biggest part of their diet, but maybe they use them for like convenience factors. Is that a big deal to you?
If you're metabolically broken, like the aforementioned woman I was talking about, that, she's got a metabolic problem. She's got, she's addicted to sugar. She has, since I'm not telling you her name, she has type 2 diabetes. She has sleep apnea. She has fatty liver disease. She's got the whole rung of things on top of it, right? Someone like that need to have total abstinence of what's causing the problem. If you're a guy that likes, you're of average weight and you're healthy and you live right most of the time, and you're taking a 2-3 hour hike on the weekend, and you bring a granola bar with you, you don't have a problem, right? Now, this doesn't, hey, Vinnie said on a podcast, I can have a granola bar. I'm just telling you an example. People that go camping and they're out away from food, a food source for 2 or 3 days. I tell them, I make a product called Ultra Fat at my company. And I tell them, hey, take that along. There's a bunch of different beef bars out there, Epic, Chomps, and so on and so on. Those things help get you through. When I'm camping for several days, I will bring hard-boiled eggs. That at least gets me through the first or second day before, you can't eat those anymore because they'll go bad. So there are things to do. I also bring coconut oil with me on longer hikes. Everything I can do. Oh, and it's one of the few times I'll use a bastardized protein, like a whey protein powder, because you just put the powder in a Ziploc bag, right? And when you get to your campsite, you get fresh water. You strain it through your thing to get potable water. And now you can have some extra protein. It's not the best form of protein, but there's ways of doing it, right, where you can get by. And I've done it. I'm a camper. I'm an outdoorsman. I've been able to go 3, 4, 5 days, no problem, right?
Yeah, I think of it in kind of the same way as like, what is your overall diet? Using something sometimes is very different than this is chronically all you eat all the time. That should always come from food. And I think that is what's missed. And that's what your film really captures. The other part I really loved about your film is you addressing some of the weight loss drugs that are now super popular out there. You got the best expert I could think of to talk about some of these things, Dr. Ben Bickman. Why did you want to address the new weight loss drugs that are getting so much attention?
I wasn't originally going to touch it. I was going to leave it alone, but it became such a big thing overnight. Right? The celebrities started using it. As soon as Kim Kardashian is doing something, it's time to start addressing it. Right? These people have big megaphones, and it had to be addressed. And people, look, I take a lot of shit because I tell people, look, we don't even know where we're headed with these GLP-1s. And people get mad at me and say, oh, we finally have something to help us lose weight, and you don't care about us, and you don't want us to lose weight. I didn't say any of that. We're going down a bad road. And here's an expert who's been there for a long time. He didn't just come on to these GLP-1s and people go, oh, these drugs have been around for years and years and they're used safely. Yes, they're used safely to get your A1Cs from 12 down to 8, right? Which means you still have type 2 diabetes. They never make you actually healthy. They never actually get you below 5.6. I can introduce you to a diet that will do that with no harm, or you could take this, have side effects, and still be type 2 diabetic, right? That's why I thought it was important to address GLP-1s. And folks, if you don't know, that means Wegovy, Ozempic, Jardiance, the semaglutides. So, yeah, I thought it was very important. Did you think it needed to be in there, or should I have left it out?
I'm glad that you addressed it. Again, it needs to be talked about. It's something that is relevant and everybody's asking about it. And again, you had some really great experts talk about it. So Ben Bickman explaining that, yes, they can be helpful, but there's a different context between diabetes and how it's prescribed and weight loss and how it's prescribed. The dosages are completely different. It's the same ingredient, but it works on different mechanisms. And if you change the dosage, you change the mechanism. And him explaining how long, food would sit in your stomach for days for some people. No wonder people feel so nauseous when they take these drugs. He worried about people having nutrient deficiencies. And it's like, yeah, I would worry about that too.
Yeah, if you take the stronger versions, like according to Dr. Bickman, like Wegovy and this sort of thing, the food moves so slowly through your stomach that it starts to decay. And I've had people tell me in the phone consults that are taking the Wegovy, they'll say, oh my God, I had to go off. And I'll say, what was happening? And the first big problem is they'll say, when I burp, it smells like roadkill. Can you imagine burping up roadkill?
Ugh.
Folks, think about when you open your garbage can outside to put more garbage in and you get that smell because maybe there's shrimp in there. And, I know we put all of our, little doggy bags in there from, the dog poop. Can you imagine when you burp, you taste that in your mouth? And that's just, if a drug is doing that, you got to sit there and go, okay, what else is going on here? And Dr. Bickman said, look, it's one of the few drugs that will make your body create more fat cells. Think about that. We usually only fill up the fat cells we have. This can genetically change you to start making more fat cells. So whenever you eventually have to go off of this, if you don't get onto a good diet, you're going to be fatter than you were before.
That's right.
Is what that means.
Yeah.
with more health issues.
I
Sorry.
was so glad that he made that point. I hadn't considered that. But yeah, not only are you making more fat cells, but he mentioned those fat cells are then going to be insulin sensitive. And so they're going to fill up really, really quickly when you go off of this. And his big point is like, yeah, you're going to lose weight when you take these drugs. That's weight. Most people want to lose fat. They don't want to lose weight. Weight comes from all over. That's your lean mass. That's things like your bone density or your connective tissue, or especially your muscle mass. We're talking now about people that have quote unquote Ozempic face, where they're getting this like sinking look in their face because they're losing weight that's coming not just from fat, but coming from muscle, which is then declining the metabolic rate, which is setting you up for perfect conditions for fat gain on the back end of all of this. It's terrible.
Yeah, Ozempic face is one. Now I don't know if there's Ozempic boobs. Have you heard that one?
I've never heard that. You heard it here first.
But yeah, when you lose weight naturally, you tend to take about 20% of muscle with it, right? There is no, if you have a lot of, look, if you're losing 10, 12 pounds, there's no big deal, especially if you're hitting the gym. You're going to counteract that. If you're losing 15, 20 pounds, same deal. If you got 100 pounds to lose, you're going to lose 20, 30 pounds of muscle with that. So it's important when people get into weight loss to actually go to the gym and even if you can't lift heavy or whatever, just start moving your muscles, right? To counteract that. Now with GLP-1s, the studies show, and this is not coming from my mouth, this is from very, very smart doctors that come onto my podcast. You can lose up to 50 or even 60% muscle with GLP-1. So you're losing half muscle, half fat. As you just said, Casey, that's a problem, right? Because, you're losing, you see it in the face, you see it in the body, none of this stuff is good, right? If there's a natural way to do something, taking a GLP-1, and I get it. Oh, Vinnie, I've never lost weight any other way. The comments I get on my Instagram when I put up a GLP-1 thing, people are angry. But look, I'm old enough. You're not. I'm old enough to remember when Fin was a big deal.
I remember that. I'm old enough for that. Come on.
You had to be a kid when that was going around, right? It was like late
Maybe
90s,
15.
something like that. Yeah. Fin became the weight loss drug. You say, oh my God, it was magical. Right? It was magical. You take Fin, it was Pondamin and phenol something. So it was, the Pondamin actually made you feel full, right? Which is one of the problems that people with eating disorders have. So the Pondamin made you feel full, and the speed helped you, kind of like guys that took Coke back in the 80s, right? That's how models stayed thin. They just did a lot of Coke. It would speed you along, so you would start losing weight. And it was like this heaven sent for morbidly obese people. Except there was one side effect that happened. You would die. A lot of people were dying from it. And it was happening at such a rate that the FDA just went, no. The FDA did the right thing and took it right off the market. People became beside themselves, belligerent. We finally have something to help us lose weight, and the FDA got rid of it. Yeah, because people were dying in droves. Come on. What are we doing? You're yelling at the FDA because they're trying to save your life for once? Really?
That's bananas.
It was crazy. But the same thing, whenever you mention Ozempic, people go, oh, we finally have something, and you're poo-pooing the idea. No, I'm just saying, take it and realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
Drugs have side effects. Sorry, they do.
Yep. You and I have both hosted, I'm going to butcher his name. I feel so bad about this. Dr. Kolodzig, I believe he made it in the documentary as well. Did I say his name right?
Kolodzig. Yeah, no, you got it right. Kolodzig. Yeah.
Kalodzig. Okay, good guess. And he talks mostly about and when he featured in your movie, he talks a lot about the continuous glucose monitor, which is a fantastic tool to help you measure blood sugar. When we had him on the show, he did say that he does help people and with that drug and will prescribe it in certain doses. But when he does, it is only after addressing lifestyle. It is only when the person is lifting weights and eating an adequate amount of protein. And if somebody takes a drug, they take a very low dose and it's temporary for specific benefits, not to be taken long term, not to be taken if the lifestyle changes are not there. That's a completely different context. And you can see how that could, in some people, maybe be a little bit helpful, but not, again, this like magic pill like fen that like, oh, just take this and you can just continue eating however you want. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and by the way, there are more natural form. And I get what Kalodzic is doing, and a lot of doctors are doing that, where they're giving a small amount of this stuff with a lifestyle change, and I applaud that. You know, if it helps people along and they get to see some results right away, and it lowers their A1Cs and this kind of thing, great. There's a use. If there's a beginning, middle, and end to when you're going to be using this stuff, right? Um, but there are other natural things like berberine and all these other things that have proven to do about the same thing without the side effects, right? So I would push back and go, well, why can't we start with berberine, right? And some of the other natural things that can lower blood sugar and all this kind of stuff. But I get it. I do get it. Ben Bigman will say the same thing. He'll go, yeah, you know, you give this to certain people, small amounts, if they're changing their lifestyle, it'll help. But it'll also work just as well if you don't do it. And, you know, then you can look at other protocols like berberine and you know, coconut oil and all the other cool things that you can do.
Yeah, I would much rather go that route. We asked Dr. Mark Cucuzella the same kind of thing. Like when these drugs came out, was this like a game changer for somebody who had diabetes? It's like, no, it was like nice to have if you needed it, but it was a tiny dose, like we said, and you know, it wouldn't be the game changer. It might give you a little boost and like a better A1C, but again, there's so many other ways that you can approach it. So I agree. I don't recommend that people touch the stuff. If they do, they just, like you said, have to be careful with the other lifestyle things. And I love the way that you concluded your movie by saying, like, a lot of times we make documentaries that just present problems that don't have a lot of solutions. I think most people at this point of this conversation probably understand what some of your solutions are, but just to reiterate, what would you have people do to approach overall health in a way that is different, that doesn't just, you know, fill the pockets of people that are making products?
If you did nothing else except cut out processed foods, right? Even if you stayed on, you know, grains like rice and corn, if you just cut out anything that came in a package and, you know, you ate meat, fish, eggs, poultry, pork, and you ate vegetables, right? And for the most part, cruciferous vegetables, you know, broccoli, cauliflower, and not turn cauliflower into baby food, as people do all the time, which, you know, actually eat a few sprigs of cauliflower and leave it at that. I guess you would call those florets. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You know, that if you just did that, you would be so much further ahead of the game. Now, if you're metabolically broken, then we have to take it a step further. The grains have to come out altogether. Rice, corn, um, you know, wheat of all sorts. That, you know, even, you know, oatmeal and, you know, whole steel cut oats and all that. Just take it all out. None of it. Your body doesn't need it. It's not a macronutrient that you need, right? Then you're taking it to the next level. It's really that simple. That's why I don't call this a diet. It's a lifestyle, right? Just take control of what you're doing. And I think, Casey, you're a carnivore, right?
Yeah, but again, we squabble around the definition of whether it's carnivore or animal based or what percentage of plant foods versus I identify as a carnivore, but that doesn't mean I don't eat plant food sometimes, you know?
Right. You know, it all becomes word salad at some point. But you know, people say, should I be carnivore? I don't know. It's limiting. It's very limiting. Um, that's why I tell people, I like to add vegetables in, not a whole lot, but you know, if you just stay in seed oils, I don't know if you've ever had Dr. Kate Shanahan on your show.
Reached out so
Um,
many times. I'd love to host her.
yeah, she. You might want to reach out again because she's pushing a new book.
Yeah, Dark Calories.
Yeah, she might come on. I think she's coming back on next week. I'm bringing her in. Kate was one of the early people on my show, probably in the first 30 or 40 shows 11 years ago, who came on and started talking about inflammation and seed oils. I didn't know much about them back then, right? I still believe that, you could take flaxseed oil to get your omegas, right? Because we didn't really understand. I didn't understand what, the omega-6 versus omega-3 layout was. But man, as soon as I started changing that and just using fish oil as my omegas, then it was like, oh my God, things change. You keep taking things to a new level, but we don't know this until we start, right? And you have to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I love that your message has stayed the same and consistent, and you've not changed it. You made this point in the movie, and I think it's wonderful. No sugar, no grain, NSNG. Just listen to those words and decide what you can eat that aren't those things, and watch your health improve in a way that's very simple, where, again, you don't have to call it a diet. It's a lifestyle, like you said. It's very simple and just takes away all the infighting about specific kind of diets and names and titles and all this other nonsense. So I really appreciate it, man. I really like the movie. I'm glad that you did it. I can't wait for your next one. You are a filmmaker at this point. If you've made 4, you got to make another one.
Oh God, I'm not doing it. I got to stop. I got to do something else.
I hope you don't. I hope you think of a great title today and sit down and think, damn it, I've got to make another movie because I've got a great title. Beyond Impossible is my favorite.
Sitting here having a drink, which I'm not doing. I'm not having any alcohol because I'm trying to beat cancer. Just sit around and have a drink and go, wait, I got a great title here. I got to go figure out a movie.
Shit.
So maybe I'll just buy a horse and go riding off into the sunset. I got to stop doing this at some point, Casey. But, look, I got to tell you, I really appreciate guys like you hosting me and doing what you're doing. And I hope I didn't come off. I feel like I said bad things about Brian Sanders. I didn't mean it that way. I just, I think the guy's doing great work. I wish him well. I just thought it was a little crappy that I guess I felt bad at the beginning going, yeah, he kind of cornered me on something I knew nothing about, which I guess caught me the wrong way.
Hey, it's all good. I have a lot of respect for him as well. He's been on the show before as well. And just anybody who's making content and getting it out there is great. I really appreciate your work and appreciate you taking time out to do this interview, especially with everything that you've got going on with your healing. Where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
You can go right to VinnieTortorich.com. You said that at the beginning of the show. The movie Dirty Keto. I'm so used to saying things. Dirty Keto is when is this coming out, Casey?
We'll be coming out probably in the end of July or end of June or so.
Okay, the movie is out. You can go to Amazon right now and get the movie. You can rent it or buy it. We have it renting for as cheap as they will allow us to do it on Amazon, which is probably $2-3, something like that. Worth the watch. So go check it out right now. It's out on Amazon, and it's only on Amazon. I'm releasing this one myself. I didn't go through a big distributor this time. So I'm only putting it on Amazon so everything can be concentrated in one place.
Okay, awesome. That's great. And offer is always on the table. I've told you this so many times. I wish more people take me up on it, and they don't. If you have to buy it, send me a Venmo request. I will personally reimburse anybody who pays for it. I think it's wonderful. I think it's worth the few bucks. And yeah, if you pay for it and you think you should have it for free, just message me, Train, TRAIN, at myboundlessbody.com. That's my email. Shoot me an email. I will Venmo you some cash. It's a great movie. All of your movies are fantastic. I love rewatching them. Vinnie, thank you so very much for all of your amazing work. Thank you for putting it out tirelessly. I know it's probably time for a nap as far as like putting out all the content that you do, but I really appreciate all of it. And thank you for taking time to be on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. And by the way, I still think you're crazy for offering people, hey, I will pay you to watch Vinnie's movies. And wow, I still can't believe you do that, which is kind of cool.
Try me. Anybody can try me. Well, thanks again. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio. Thank you so very much for listening to and supporting Boundless Body Radio. This podcast is such a passion of mine, one of my favorite parts about running our business, and none of this would be possible without our incredible guests and listeners like yourself. Thank you so very much for all of the amazing reviews that we get on Apple and Spotify. Trust me, we read them all, and it means the world to hear that you are enjoying the show as well. I am very excited to announce that this summer I will be hosting a nutrition seminar series. This is actually a project that I started after I became certified as a nutrition coach. I wanted to get a group of people together to discuss all aspects of human nutrition, and as a bonus, I did the whole thing outside by a pool, which was great. After the pandemic, I stopped hosting the series, but this year I've decided to bring it back. Each week we'll have a particular topic and an agenda. We'll have outlines that include references, and also meal plans, guest appearances, book giveaways, and more, all for free. For those of you who live in the Salt Lake City area, the seminars will be hosted every Tuesday at noon, starting on May 28th, and will run all the way until September 3rd. The seminar will be hosted outside, of course, at the beautiful Bowery Park in Daybreak, where I live. If you're available and in the area, we would absolutely love to see you there. If you are unable to attend, either that day and time does not work for you, or you don't live in the area, good news for you as well, we are going to put all the recordings and post them on YouTube, where you can submit listener questions in the comment section, which we can address in future seminars. I'm also including all of the seminar materials on our website, so you don't have to miss out on the content. My goal is to make a comprehensive yet simple understanding of nutrition so that anybody confused about how they should eat can create a framework for themselves based on their individual goals. As I said, if you're interested in participating, we'd love to have you. If you can't make it into the in-person seminar, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also our website at myboundlessbody.com/seminar to find all of the resources, videos, and a fun quiz. Either way, thank you as always for listening to Boundless Body Radio.